VAMP, Chapter 3. About a week later, I was moved into my new home. I went to the local furniture store and bought a beautiful 4-post cherry wood bed, which I placed in the master bedroom with white linens and a dark green bedspread. I bought some lamps, a big comfy couch, an oversized chair, as well as a coffee table. I also went down to the small bookstore and bought a handful of books to start reading since I had read all of mine about 100 times. I had spent a full day and night getting the house exactly how I wanted, and then I decided to go for a walk on the main street in hopes of finding a tanning salon as my spray tan was starting to fade. I was in luck, as right on Main Street there was a tanning salon called Bit of Sun. I was just hoping that it had one spray tan stall. I walked through the door and an old-school metal bell chimed from above my head. "Hello there. I'm Margaret. How can I help you?" she said happily. Margaret was a plump, middle-aged woman with dark brown curly hair, which she left authentic and wild. "Nice to meet you, Margaret. I'm Gretchen. I was wondering if you happen to have a spray tan machine." "Yes, we do. I'm afraid it doesn't get much use these days, so it will take me a few minutes to clean it up and get things ready." "That's perfectly fine. I'd prefer to use the spray tan machine over the UV machines anyway." "Totally understand. I can offer you a punch card for the spray tans. Get 5 and the 6th is free. We recommend about 2 spray tans a month, depending on the color spray you choose. I can also make all your appointments in advance if you like." "You wanted to get one today?" she asked while opening up the appointment book. "Might as well since I'm here." I looked at the color chart she handed me for the sprays. "Let's do Touch of Honey." "Oh, perfect. That will look marvelous on you. I'll get it all set up. Feel free to help yourself to a pop or coffee," she said as she grabbed a canister of tanning liquid and pointed to the small waiting area to the right of her desk. A few minutes later, she came up front and waved me to follow her down the hall and showed me how their system worked. "I'll be up front when you're done. You can hit this button on the wall if you need any help," she said, then closed the door behind her. After I finished my tan and paid Margaret, we set up my future tans. I thanked her for her help and headed out of the salon. I decided to walk around town for a while and get familiar with the streets and businesses. There was a nice mix of shops, some novelty, some thrifty, some antique. There was a Chinese and an Italian restaurant across the street from each other, and other ma-and-pa shops lined the streets. When I was heading back to my car, I came across a help wanted sign in the window of a local tavern. Figuring that I really had nothing to do with my time since the house didn't need any updating, I decided to apply. "Hello there, little lady," said the gentleman tending the bar when I walked in. "What can I do for you?" "Hey there, my name is Gretchen. I saw the help wanted sign and wanted to apply for the position." "Well, Gretchen, I'd be glad to talk to you for a minute and get to know you if you don't mind. I'm Hank, I own this bar, and I'm just looking for someone to do some part-time shifts. Do you have any experience working in a bar?" We exchanged some work history, experience, and skills, and he asked me how I would make a few drinks. Overall, it wasn't anything difficult. "You're hired," he said 10 minutes later. "We've never had anyone that we haven't had to train, and the locals will be real happy to get their drinks right for once," Hank said while laughing. "Well, thank you very much," I said, smiling. "When would you like me to start?" Turns out he wanted me to start right away. He took me around the bar and showed me where everything was located and explained the seating assignment, which was simple. Hank was laid back and assured me that if I wanted to reorganize anything, to go right ahead and do it. I was warned about not wearing anything low cut or cut short if I didn't want any comments to be made. Afterwards, we set up a schedule, and since I didn't need much training, Hank and I just went over the menu and he introduced me to the cook and dishwasher. After we spent about an hour going over the procedures and questions, I was on my own while he was doing inventory and billing in the back office. I met a few other people from the town that night. They were some of Hank's regulars, and they were all really friendly. I have a thing for old people. I find them adorable and sweet, even if they smell a little strange. I've always been able to communicate well with them. Maybe it's because we're around the same age. It was a pretty slow night, so I was surprised to hear the door open at 1:45 a.m. I wasn't upset. It's not like I was tired or anything, but my face must have shown some type of disapproval because one of the men apologized. "I know it's 15 minutes till close, but would you mind if we came in for a quick beer?" said the older of the two men. He looked to be in his mid-50s and was probably around 5'8", with a small beer belly and white beard. He looked like a friendly man. He kind of reminded me of a thinner Santa Claus. "That's perfectly fine. Don't even worry about the clock." "What can I get for both of you?" I asked. "We'll both take a tall MGD. Thank you, Miss, please. I'm Gretchen, and you're welcome. I'll get those right away for you, too," I said as I laid a bowl of pretzels on the counter for them. The second man was much quieter, probably in his late 20s, and standing at a good 6 feet. I could tell he did physical labor for his job because his biceps were huge, and you could see the outlining of his chest through his t-shirt. I couldn't tell how long his brown hair was because it was pulled back into a ponytail at the base of his neck, which showed off his strong jawbones. His eyes were the deepest green I had ever seen, even more mesmerizing than my original eyes. It's a good thing that I don't have to breathe, because I think I would have forgotten how. He smelled interesting, not just his cologne. His blood made my mouth burn a little, but nothing I couldn't control. There was also the slightest smell of fish, or something on his body. Around here, most of the men were fishermen, and I wondered if that's what he did for a living. I could also see a tattoo peeking out from under his t-shirt on his right arm. From what I could tell, it was an anchor with a topless mermaid hanging onto it. It also looked like there was an eagle and the word, "Live fast, die free." "Here you go, guys. Anything else I can get for you?" I asked, setting their glasses down on the bar. "No, I think we're just fine right now. Thank you, Gretchen. I'm Roy, and this is my son, Aiden. You're new in town, aren't you?" I nodded silently. "It's a small town. I know I haven't seen you here before." "Where did you move from?" asked Roy before giving me a chance to answer the first question and taking a sip of his beer. "It's nice to meet you, Roy and Aiden. I just moved here from Baton Rouge, Louisiana." "Really? You're in for quite a change. I hope you enjoy it here," Roy said as he grabbed a few pretzels. "Thank you. I'll leave you two to your drinks. If you want a refill, just let me know." And then continued my cleaning, pretending that I couldn't hear them. The truth was that I could have walked outside and still heard their conversation fairly well from a block away. Roy was facing Aiden and asked, "So, what do you plan to do about Jimmy's spot on the boat? You know you can't start the season without him." "I know, Pop. It's not something I really want to think about right now. I still can't believe he's gone. No one will ever be able to fill his shoes." "You're not still blaming yourself for what happened to him, are you? Aiden, you need to let it go, boy. It was not your fault. Jimmy was in the wrong place at the wrong time." I couldn't help but be slightly curious about what had happened to his friend. I walked back over to the bar with clean glasses and began to stack them on the rack, acting like I wasn't listening. "Miss, can I get a refill?" It was Aiden talking to me this time. I was nearly knocked over when he looked into my eyes. Up until this point, he hadn't made eye contact with me at all. It shook me so much that when I reached for his empty glass, I grabbed it too hard and it started to crack. "Get a hold of yourself, Gretch," I thought. "Whoa there, miss. Be careful. You didn't cut yourself, did you?" asked Roy. "Oh no, I'm fine," I said, a little shaken. Aiden was staring at me wildly now, his eyes boring into my skin. He was alarmed. I could tell he really didn't know what to think, or what he should even say. I threw the glass in the trash and filled a new one. "Sorry about that. Here you go," I said with the most confident smile I could muster at the moment. But Aiden just continued to stare at me, his eyes searching for an explanation in my icy gray ones. "It's amazing you didn't cut yourself. I thought there would be blood everywhere," Roy said, breaking the awkward silence and the gaze between Aiden and I. "Just lucky, I guess," I said, flashing my teeth and turning to walk away. Just as I walked away, I heard Roy whisper to Aiden, "She's a looker, ain't she, son? Seemed like you two had a little moment there. I can head home if you want to have some time with her." If my heart had a beat, it would have skipped. I thought for a second I had butterflies in my stomach. Maybe it was still possible for me to get butterflies, even though my body had no life in it. But before I got too worked up over it, I heard Aiden's reply. "Yeah, she's gorgeous, all right. And no, it's all right, Pop. I should get home soon so that I can get up and clean the boat for tomorrow and get everything set up for the season. I need my rest. I haven't been sleeping all that well." "Okay, son. Sounds good. But I'd try to get her know her before someone else in town does. Girls like that don't stay single very long. And after Ryan gets a look at her, well, you know how he is." "I know, Pop. I know." They got up to leave, and I walked back around the counter. I was curious as to where this Aiden lived, and now I was curious about who this Ryan guy was. But my thoughts were mostly about Aiden. Obviously he was single if his dad was trying to get him to talk to me. I decided at that moment I would follow him to his house. There was something about him that I needed to get to know. "Here you go, darling. Keep the change. We'll see you around," said Roy with a hearty smile. "Thank you. You guys have a nice night." And with that, they were gone. There are times that I enjoy being a vampire. The speed is awesome. I can do things in minutes that would take most people hours. I finished adding up the till and cleaning, turned off the lights, and locked the door in 2 minutes. I hadn't heard a car pull up in front of the bar, so I knew they must have walked from the harbor. I could still smell them, so I followed slowly behind. My slow and their slow must have been different paces completely, because I caught up to them in 2 blocks. I waited behind a corner for them to gain a little distance. Aiden dropped his father off at his house and continued walking. I could tell they had a very close relationship because their whole walk home consisted of laughter, jokes, and talking about stories from their last fishing trip. Aiden even put his arm around his father at one point and pulled him close. I was somewhat jealous. Watching them together reminded me of the relationship I had with my father. He didn't live far from his dad, just about 3 blocks away and around a corner. I waited until he went inside, then I climbed a tree by the front of his house. Thankfully, the leaves gave me some coverage so that I wouldn't be seen in the dark. As I was sitting in the tree, I suddenly felt like a lunatic. I was seriously straddling the line of stalker and psychopath. I pinched the bridge of my nose with my fingers and shook my head thinking, "You're insane, Gretch. You've truly outdone yourself this time, but you're here now, so you might as well go with it." His house was very clean and white. He didn't have any of the walls painted any type of color. I saw him walk into the kitchen and get a glass of water. It was very quiet in the house. There was no radio playing, the TV wasn't on, and Aiden was just standing there holding his glass of water and staring at the floor. I wish I knew what he was thinking. Once I drink from someone, I can sense their emotions. I'll know if they're angry, upset, sad, happy, any emotion. But I cannot read minds. Some vamps can, but it's a rare quality. When he finished his water, he moved to the back of the house and I heard him go up the stairs. I waited to see which light would go on in the house. A second later, I saw a light spilling out from a window at the back of the house, and luckily there was another tree there I could use. I had never followed anyone home before, and I don't know what made me want to with him. I felt this strong need to know him. Aiden walked into his bedroom and stripped down to his boxers. I swiftly turned my head to the side, but not before quickly noticing the man was built like a brick wall. He turned off the light, and I could hear him crawling into bed. I didn't turn back to peer into the window. There wasn't anything else left to see. I quietly climbed out of the tree and walked myself home, where I climbed into bed with my journal, a book, and let my thoughts surround me like the flames engulfing the logs in the fireplace.